going to hold your hand. So excited for this little journey we're going to go on.
I know.
And it's going to be fun, and we're going to have a good time.
Yes.
And maybe make some money.
Hopefully. Hello, divas, dudes, and dolls.
Welcome to WIG, where we wistfully waggle that wascally wabbit that is indie games. This is my co-host, Chara Couture.
Hi, and this is my co-host, Chelora.
Hi.
And we are here to start this fun little jibber-jabbery adventure to talk about something that we both hold very near and dear to our heart, and that is the topic of indie games.
Chara, what's an indie game?
Oh my goodness.
No, but first, who are we?
For me, I am a trans fashion illustrator, drag content creator, streamer, doer of too many things, as I famously am known for. Well, and I just play a lot of shit.
I love shit.
Me too.
I am Chelora. I'm a trans woman drag streamer, cosplayer, makeup artist, I suppose, bug enthusiast, too much nonsense knowledge of bugs knower. Like flies can have orgasms, did you know? Oh, nobody asked, but here we are.
That's your Snapple fact of the day, folks.
Yeah, we love a Snapple fact.
Yeah.
It's like a Kodak moment for your brain.
Exactly.
And I also probably do too many things. Because I edit videos, I do this now, and there's other projects coming down the pipeline. Too many.
Yep. See, this is why we're going to work well together on this, because we both do way too much all the time.
That's right.
We are in good company for that.
Yeah. So what's an indie game, Chara?
So in my opinion, indie games are really any video game that is published outside of the typical publishing structure of a AAA studio, or sometimes even a AA studio, depending on studio size, all that jazz. I personally really like indie games because I like the kind of the workaround of let's just not deal with all the corporate suits and bureaucratic people who are telling us this is the game that you have to make because marketing optics say this or that or the other thing. And you just have independent creators who have an idea and want to put it into existence. And sometimes they have a publisher that picks them up along the way. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they kickstart the whole thing. Sometimes it's one solo developer who's done everything from top to bottom. It just depends.
They're verse.
Yes.
We gotta put gay jokes in here for the
I know. Some may even say you can find them on a Switch.
My research was mostly conducted on Wikipedia, and it's a valid source.
Yes, that's what they should call the Rule 34 section of Star Wars things. Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. Oh, Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Well, to you too. As far as I saw and read about indie games, they have a focus on innovation, experimentation, and they take a lot of risks, which I think is true because we don't necessarily see that from a lot of AAA titles. Mm-hmm. But these days, I think we'll talk about it more, but indie games kind of push AAAs to do things like that.
Yes.
Which I think is part of why they're so important and so neato, so cool, so wow, so hip. But there is no widely accepted definition of what an indie game is. So you can kind of probably throw at people, Dead by Daylight is an indie game. And then some people might argue, I don't think it's indie anymore, so it's really up to your interpretation of what you think an indie game is. Indie is the business of making games without publisher support, but there are indie-specific publishers, is what I wrote. So I don't know about the idea of without publisher support, because these days there are publishers that specialize in indie games, and
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite publishers, that's all they do.
Yeah. Like Whitethorn or...
Mm-hmm. Finji,
which we also love. Another quote here is, "I know it when I see it," which is, so helpful. And
Oh, yeah.
that's from Dan Pierce of IGN. Typical IGN fashion, it's super nondescript.
Yeah. Unless there's too much water. They have no problem describing if there's too much water in
Too much
something.
water. Gen 3.
7.8.
Gen 3 of Pokemon, too much water. Some define it as small teams with financial and or thoughtful independence, which I could definitely see. And I mean, even if you have a publisher or some financial backing, that could still be independent.
Oh, definitely.
Someone named Jesper Jewell, the professor of Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts, wrote a book. I didn't write it down, but
Oh,
they wrote that it is first financially independent of large publisher funding, so that would be more consistent with what we're saying. Secondly, aesthetically unique of AAA titles, and third, culturally unique of AAA titles, which is subjective but a little more refined.
yeah.
Um, there are also some definitions for AAA games, so you might have devs from AAA studios who left that studio to create their own games, and some people define that as AAA, or sometimes games like maybe Unicorn Overlord, for example, get picked up by these larger publishers and get like large publisher backing, but are still sort of indie, and some people define those as more AA as opposed to AAA. Just take away an A. Take my A away.
The
Um,
Scarlet Letter.
yeah. So those AAA or AA indies kind of require a higher production value. They use cutting edge technology and more expansive budgets. Indie is what you make of it.
Yeah. That's what I think is so interesting about them is that they really do operate on this huge, like, borderline Kinsey scale situation of you've got, AAA, you've got whatever it is on the other end, and then anything indie is like in between that.
Yeah,
Like it's a huge gobbledygook mess in the best way.
I love indie games.
I do too. We love indie games.
We
Hence,
women love indie games. We love indie
yes,
games. Women in indie games.
WIG,
We love women in indie games. Wait,
yes,
did you say
with
wig?
us, or yes, I did say WIG.
I felt that,
I did too. It's our word. It's for us.
even though we're not wearing wigs. But
No, I think that's the irony is that we are two drag artists as well who like famously don't wear wigs very often
yeah,
or at all.
I've just started, and it's just once in a while, just like a little here and there.
Yeah, it's for fun,
Yeah,
you know. But we both have a lot of hair.
we have a lot of hair.
It's not fun shoving it under a wig cap and getting it
No.
into position. There's way more prep.
As trans women, we want to be proud of our hair.
Yes. We don't
That's
want
it right
to
there.
we don't want to end up ripping it all off by wearing wigs all the time and taping them to our heads
Exactly. Speaking of women, why women?
because women are women doing women things for women audiences and all of that. But I think just being two like very marginalized identities, both as women, as trans folks, as well as queer people, um, we, I think we see something in a lot of indie storylines and like indie, or I guess even indie developer storylines of like kind of that underdog story that makes us want to root for it to succeed, but also we're able to, add some more trans queer subtext as well into things that, maybe more intentionally there.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I very rarely feel seen as an identity in games. And for me, as a white person, like, obviously I see myself that way all the time. But, like, in indie space, getting to see, like, my specific experience as a trans woman in a storyline and have it done well because there's really heavily involved trans folks at the forefront of that story. That's another reason why I love indie games. I just feel like they can take more swings when it comes to the stories they want to tell. They can be really hyper specific, and it can be a really small indie game that isn't anything like huge scale wise, but still has that impact because it comes from that perspective of, the person and the identities behind the game itself. I think comes through more in indie games than AAA's.
Oh no, even in modern day AAA games, I still like not even on like a queer level, but just even like a woman level. It's like
Mm-hmm.
where are the women? Where are the girls? Why are we still getting like the second rate shit? Like
Yeah.
I just like I haven't played 16 like Final Fantasy 16 for example, but like I went to a concert recently where they like show clips and stuff and I'm like is there just one girly? And she's like the fiercest slay diva, of course, but like where's the rest of the girlies? We could have
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 15 where there's like
No
it's
girlies
a
at
boys
all.
club, and then we have Luna Freya or whatever, who's a fierce slay diva as well. But then like, why do we only get one? And
Mm-hmm.
I know there's other girlies, but it's like, where's the main divas? You know,
Yeah.
like, where's the well-rounded experience of everyone here is at the table? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
those are the games that I think succeed the most is when like everybody's there.
Yeah.
And when we reduce it so much, it just kind of falls flat, at least for me. Like, I get it. I can enjoy the boys, but like, I need a little something.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a prime example of like larger studios kind of missing the boat on that is all of the stuff that came out a few years ago with Ubisoft with like Assassin's Creed Odyssey,
Oh, yeah.
the one that's set in like Greece. Like, did you know all of the stuff that went with this?
No.
Like, so that was one of the first. I think it was the first one where it was like you could pick from the beginning to be a male character or a female character,
Right.
and there was like an expose. I want to say it was like 2 years after it came out, and the expose stated that basically they had intended for the female character to be the only character. She was going to be the main diva, and she was interesting, well written, well rounded as a character, and the corporate overhead was like, our client base will not buy a game if you can only be a woman in it. So they made, like late into development, made the male character, and then he was the face of all the marketing. And so he was the secondary option. So like if you look at the comparative experience of their performances in the game and their personalities as characters, the female character Cassandra, she's way more well defined. Like she's way more characterized. Exactly, exactly. For those listening to the podcast and not watching the visual, Chelora has just switched the pillows on her little couch to one that delightfully says "eat shit." So I think that's a perfect way to describe how we feel when developers do things like that.
I just think it's
Because
cowardly. Like,
yes, like yeah, are you taking a sort of an unfortunate objective risk by putting all your eggs in the basket of a female protagonist in a AAA space? Yes, but that's just the market. That's just the way gaming is as an industry,
yeah.
unfortunately. But especially for a game that's from that series and of that style. But like when you see the comparative of what you could have just had on its own, and you made, in my opinion, an inferior product because you added this other mode that is not as good, and then made that the selling point. Like you're just kind of, cutting yourself off from really changing how people view your studio. You
Yeah.
know, and then on top of that, a lot of corporate game company structures are internally really misogynistic, and that's not great either.
Yeah. I have that in my notes too to talk about. But I just think, at least for myself, like I know we need more. We always need more. But like
Mm-hmm.
when even the bare minimum is represented, the more we can infer and like throw ourselves at things, I think the more those developers and like conglomerates can kind of be like, oh, like if we take any character, just pick a female character, a woman character, and say like, Fang. I'm gonna go back to Final Fantasy, but Fang and Vanille, we say that they're lesbians, and we take them as lesbians, or like we take Talia from League of Legends and say that she's trans. And the more that we, push this, it's not even like an agenda or whatever. Like it's not malicious. It's just
Yeah.
this is the information we have, and like we've heard that like the developers or the writers wanted XYZ, but it didn't go all the way through. Because a lot of times the marketing folks or publishing or whoever says like, hey, I don't know if that's a really good idea because we might get lashback or whatever, so it doesn't go all the way through. If we promote this information and we publish it ourselves as gamers, as players, as the community, we can have it for ourselves. And I think it kind of will naturalize over time. Like we need to show these publishers and these marketing executives and whatever that like these games are worth pushing these diverse inclusions.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, like when you were saying it, I was like, okay, but if I think they're also not looking at the second big picture of like if you publish, Assassin's Creed whatever with a fierce light diva woman who like, maybe she's really rough and tough or gruff or masculine or whatever, whoever she is, doesn't really
Yeah.
matter to me. There's someone out there that's going to, still identify with that information. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
I think like there's a lot of games where there's a sexy woman that is not necessarily like objectified. She can be sexy without being objectified.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's more like appreciation as opposed to, like
Yeah.
um and in games like that where we get to play as a sexy woman or a powerful woman or a strong woman, like your woman audience is going to come more.
Mm-hmm.
Like and I think the gays too, because they like that
Oh,
shit too.
yeah. I
So
mean, I
like
look
they're
at a
considering
character.
only men, and it's like, what about the rest of us? Like the
Oh,
market you've never had before.
exactly. I mean, look at a character like, I mean, I know this is a AAA studio. Bayonetta, I think, is a really classic
Yes.
example of a character she is sexy and she is objectified, but she's in on the joke.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
she knows what she's doing. And I think there's a very clear difference between characters like her, where it's a character who is this sexually empowered and sexually liberated woman who is just like having fun and kicking ass and looking real fierce while doing it, compared to a game like, I don't know, like I haven't played the first Descendant, so I don't know how the story is with that, but the marketing for all of it kind of gives me like Stellar Blade vibes a little bit, where it's like all of the women are in like really skin tight bodysuits where it's like halfway up their ass, or like, and you can see every little thing. And it's like, who did you make this for? From what I've been told, this game plays a bit like Destiny, but if that's the vibe, you're going for a male audience here, and you're creating female characters that are really easy on the eyes for your predominantly straight male audience to consume as a product. I,
It just
I, I
sounds like the woman is already an object. Like
yes, like,
she's something to be looked at and to be like,
and to be ogled and not
yeah,
appreciated as a well-rounded, well-developed character.
yeah. I don't know anything about Stellar Blade. Don't at me. But like, um, I just think like it kind of makes me think because I've seen like little video clips and like little pictures and stuff,
Yeah,
but it just automatically makes me think of like those mods where you like make Jill Valentine have enormous tits and a big fat ass.
yes,
Like
like,
that's all you did. Just we don't need the mods now, and it's like okay, well, like
work.
what is this weird like? it's the male fantasy, you know.
Yeah.
Cue that clip real quick. But
And I
like,
think and I think too, like I've seen people on social media talk about how they want more women like that in games again, because we had this whole era of like the mid to late 2000s of a lot of female protagonists that were like that, but they were all very tongue in cheek, they were empowered, they were well written, well rounded characters.
yeah,
And there's a clear difference to me.
yeah,
And I think when you compare indies to AAAs, indies tend to get women better. Like they portray women better.
yeah,
And I don't know. I just find it refreshing. I like going and sitting and playing a game from a small team that, or even a big one, that just has cool women that
yeah,
that aren't, you know, just eye candy for guys.
yeah. I like them to be well rounded. I want them to have a personality beyond like a trope.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't I like it also when like their whole personality isn't based around sexuality
Yes.
or like fangirling or fanboying or whatever. Like like you said with Bayonetta or um I know I keep saying Unicorn Overlord, but I just played it okay. But like there's like a whole scene that I loved where like the big titty girl talks to one of the other girls and they're like telling each other how cute they are, and then um, all you see come into frame are just like these enormous thighs in armor because she's a giant. She's like
Mm-hmm.
huge. I don't know if you know anything about Unicorn Overlord,
No,
but
I don't.
she shows up. She's this enormous like warrior woman, and I just like live for her. You can look her up. Her name's Amalia.
Oh, I love
But
that.
there's a whole scene that plays out, and it's very sapphic coded. And
Mm-hmm.
at first, I was like, "Oh, this game gets me." Like, I'm not, I'm not like I'm a straight girl, but like, like I live for it. I eat it up,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a little disappointed that the rest of the game didn't have themes like that. At least not that I saw. And I was like, some queer in the studio was around for this and put this in, and it's top tier
Oh, definitely. I
because
just pulled.
she's so tall that it's just
Oh,
her
yeah.
legs.
I pulled up her design, and I also really really like that the armor design is not
Yes,
like it's practical
it's a
for
little
like,
sexy, but it's
yeah,
practical.
yeah, like yeah, her thighs are out.
It
It's
works.
yeah, it makes sense, and it's not like that typical tropey fantasy armor design for women where it's like here's the breast cups molded out of metal that would not be effective in combat at all.
Yeah. Well, and like her whole thing is she's just a gladiator woman, and like I don't want to give spoilers for nobody, but there's a little more beyond that. But she's just super cool. She's a badass.
We love badass women
Yeah.
and women in STEM.
Women in STEM. And speaking of women in STEM who are women badasses, badass women, women behind the scenes in like indie studios and even
Yeah.
these AAA studios. Like it's really hard out there to be femme in the workplace for those specific workplaces, and like getting your specific story or your you know whatever out there is a pain in the ass because men in tech are awful. They're full of shit, and it's just like I wouldn't know, but I've spoken with a lot of women in the tech industry, and it's a nightmare.
Oh, yeah. And I think like as somebody who does a lot of coverage of gaming events and industry things for like Summer Game Fest, the Game Awards, all these different presentations we get in the summer, etc., etc. There's not a lot of women
No.
doing presentations, doing any form of visible speaking about the games they're making
Yeah.
outside of indie presentations.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I like the indie ones a lot more. Because not only are the games way more interesting, not only am I wish listing way more things out of those presentations than I am in the main presentations themselves, it's just nice to see queer people, women, trans folks just talking about things they're working on.
Yeah.
And it's like, Even if it's a game that I wouldn't normally play, I will at least check it out because I know queer people worked on it, you know? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
because I know, like, there's a little bit of my own community injected in the blood of this game somewhere. And I know I'm not going to have to deal with some transphobic bullshit that is in the background, you know?
Yeah. And like I don't even think that women or like identity has to even be in the games for me to enjoy
Oh,
them.
not at
Just
all.
just knowing that it's made by someone like me or someone adjacent to me, or even if it's a man who just like I know gets it,
Yes.
like who's with it. Like I've played games by gay men who I don't think get it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I see that. Like I think the people who make games, especially indie games, you can see their heart
Yeah.
through the whole process. And a lot of times, if I've met the developers, for example, and they say, oh, there's a character in this that's non binary, or this or that or the other thing, here's a woman, I can either tell right away by playing the game or seeing the game that they either appreciate women or trans folks or queer folks, or they don't at all, and they're just putting it in for whatever willy nilly reason.
Yeah, just for optics. To be
Yeah,
like, look at us, we're diverse.
yeah. I don't know. An example would be nope, I can't remember the name of the game. It's in my head and I can't remember. It'll come back to me. I know at like the end of the episode, but um, yeah, I don't know. I've played some of these games and then like it's just like blah. Like I don't know. Like the developers from Samobi are both queer women, and they made Princess Farmer, and you can tell it's like in the blood of the game. So
Oh,
it
absolutely.
and like it's the same for Elemental Survivor, which has nothing to do with sexuality or necessarily identity, but because like the characters are like it's like vampire survivors, like they don't talk.
Mm-hmm.
There's minimal or no dialogue. Like where are you going to get any of that information except for maybe the description of the character? But you can see it's like in the blood of the game, like the essence and the vibe and so having more diverse people in the workroom and appreciating their work and ideas and efforts goes, I think, such a long way.
I know there's a lot of controversy now with companies or developers using Sweet Baby Inc. They're almost like a checks and balances writing firm, from what I understand. And basically, they'll look over your game and tell you like if you're portraying marginalized identities the right way or not.
Oh,
And so I think there's some like corporate good there, and I think they do a fundamental good thing. There's a lot of controversy because the folks who run it have said things on Twitter that have upset the white folks, you know, but who cares?
oh, who
Though,
cares about
yeah.
them?
Yeah, so
I
like
was
there
like, oh, who's it gonna be?
yeah, but like there's some really cool stuff that they've worked on, and it sucks seeing consumers just dogpile these games solely because they had some collaboration with this firm on the side.
Right.
Just to make sure that things were portrayed accurately, portrayed fairly, and authentically. Like,
But I mean, a lot of times these things happen, and we kind of have to do the opposite of canceling.
yeah.
I don't know what you would call that. Green lighting. We have to green light, collaborate to like work on like I don't know, helping them out, because if we don't help them out, they're gonna suffer.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do that with like different games that I'm trying to promote. Some games more than others because of the indie teams, or sometimes they get lashback from like a community that doesn't appreciate what they're doing, and they need help. Like in a sea of hate, sometimes you just need a dinghy of hope.
Oh, yes,
Put
absolutely.
that on a t-shirt.
That's our first merch.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's been games I've seen that I'm like, oh, this looks really cool. I'm really interested in this because it's a very culturally centered story. And then they're like, we worked with Sweet Baby Inc. And then people are like, no, I won't play this because they worked with them. And they don't
Yeah.
like white people. It's like you're playing a game about people of color. You're
Yeah.
not the focus in this.
I also don't
Like,
like white people.
no, I don't either. We're really fucking annoying.
Yes, we
Like,
are. We're such a pain in the neck.
we really are. And it's like, you can't have everything just be for you all the time, you
Yeah.
know?
We've had
Like,
it for millennia at this point.
exactly. It's like, why is it a problem for an indie company to say, we're going to make a game that we're not going to put any white people in at all? Because this is a game about our community and
Yeah.
our culture, and that is not white people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's a problem by any means. And for me, as somebody who loves to learn about other cultures
Yeah.
and other points of view on things, knowing the game centers around a different culture and is made by a developer that is from there or is rooted there, like Raji and Ancient Epic. I can't remember the name of the studio off the top of my head, but they're an Indian based studio, and the whole game is like India, Hindu, and Balinese mythology. It's all rooted in that. And all
Yeah.
throughout the game, you learn about all these different stories of the different reincarnation cycles of all the different gods and all the
Well,
different
now I
world
have a new game to
myths.
play.
It's cool. The architecture's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But, like, stuff like that, like, I love playing games like that where I'm learning about things that I wouldn't have known about otherwise, or I'm experiencing something that is for me quite foreign, being a white person from a very white town in the Midwest. It's just nice. And I again, that's what I like about indies a lot because I'm getting experiences out of them that I'm certainly not getting from a AAA studio.
Yeah. They have a story to tell and a perspective to give. And you were saying like it's a game with like not a white person in sight, and that was like literally my like hyped reaction with Spirit Swap, if you remember.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, I that was like what 2 years ago, and we
Maybe
were like
3 at
all
this
in
point.
yeah, and we were all in a Discord call, and I had played the demo that was available at the time. And I was like, everybody, come play this game. Look at this thing. I love it. It's so good. It has all these body types, and everybody's really cool, and I love all the designs. Play this game. And everybody was like, yeah, shut up, Chelora. It's fine. I was like, no, it's really cool, guys. Come on.
It is cool though. I'm
It
excited for
is.
that one. Like the little characters are cute. Like the little animal characters are really cute. The character designs are great.
It has everything.
It's got lo-fi beats to match 3 to.
Literally.
That's the tagline, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like word
yes,
for
it
word.
is. Lo-fi beats to match 3 too.
We have some more things we want to talk about. Obviously, with this first episode, our first thing we want to tackle next is what makes indies in general important for the game industry as a whole. So, I will let you take it away.
Oh, I take it. I hold it. I keep it for myself. Just kidding. That would be monopolizing, wouldn't it? Nobody else
Yes.
can have anything. Yeah, I think indies are really important to preventing like monopolies. And even though we have the monopolies or the bigger AAA studios like Microsoft, for example, with Xbox and them, sometimes they buy out these studios. Like with Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's not a bad thing, and we have an abundance of indie studios to still sustain that. So I think that's really good, and I think there will always be more indie games.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've seen this kind of upswing kind of continue. There was a point I saw in the history of indie games where they thought there would be an indie apocalypse, is what they called it. Where they thought there would be too many indie games and that like the indie sphere would crash, and it didn't happen. So I think it can only be a good thing because the more we have, the more choices we have to choose from, and the more things we can choose to support or not support. And we can, it's a way of showing these AAA studios kind of what we're looking for. We had Harvest Moon, and I don't even know if Story of Seasons had started at this point, but like Stardew Valley came out around the time that Harvest Moon started looking like shit. And so we really got the life sim and like farming sim games like down. and it's still been like kind of down, honestly, like nailed down by Stardew
Yeah.
Valley, doing what it does. And it's such a great game, and they, Concerned Ape, the developer, still produces free patches for the game instead of DLC, which is another way to keep your player base playing. On the downside, we're still waiting for that confirmation on non-binary identifiers and things like that, and pronouns, I think, which is not that hard.
It's
um,
literally like one word, one option.
yeah, I know it's a
Just
lot of dialogue boxes. It's just a matter of going through each dialogue box and being like, let me switch these pronouns around, which I'm sure you could program a thing that does that automatically for you.
hmm
But regardless of all those things, it did do that. It had an effect on like the life sim, farming sim, dungeon crawler industry, I guess, or like that genre of game. After it came out, we got like a boom of them that was just honestly not even that good. But some of them were pretty good, but a lot of them were bad.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's
um,
interesting that we've got now, because Stardew Valley has become such a huge hit, now it's like, oh, here we go, another farm sim.
yeah,
It's created a market on its own. Like, I guess it's re-energized a market for that genre. And now so many companies and developers and publishers are trying to have their own piece of that money.
yeah, that
Their
success.
yeah, they're wanting their own piece of that pie. And now you have studios like Blumhouse Games that just got announced this summer that they're working on sort of an inversion on the farm sim trope
Yeah,
with I can't think of the name of it, but it's the one I sent you where it's like somebody in your town is a murderer or a
oh yes,
monster, but it's like you go through, you have the relationship building of Stardew Valley, you have the farm management, and then at night someone dies,
right.
and so then you're trying to solve the mystery of who the killer is, and so you have all this gruesome horror element added into it. So now that you're getting all these games that are coming out with inversions and twists on the Stardew Valley formula and the tropes of a farm sim and a life sim, which I think is great. Like, I think that's one thing that indies are really fantastic for is that they push lines on innovation. Or they push lines when it comes to what exactly could you do for a game?
Exactly.
How can a game work? And
Yeah.
if that game becomes successful, so many other companies out there are going to try and copy it and
Yep.
put their own spin on it to make it a little different, which then begets another interesting storyline or interesting presentation style or whatever. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. At this point, nothing is original anymore. Everything is derivative. I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah.
So you don't need to try to reinvent the wheel. The wheel works fine. Put on a different tire or something for the different needs. Like
Yeah. A
you
different,
don't.
smooth it out a little, or give it more grit if it needs more grit for the winter.
Yeah, take it off road.
Yeah. Give it spurs. I don't know cars. I what are those things? Uh, Not grills.
For what?
The
Like
the the,
treads?
the cover, the like
The
middle part.
Oh, a hubcap?
Is that what that
I don't
is?
I don't know cars
I
either.
don't know.
So
Y'all know what we're talking about. Give them a fancy little, spinny thing and a LED light strip and that's all you got to do. Make it
yeah,
fancy, make it cool, but do it. Make it like
make it
your
make it
car
your
obsessed
own.
cousin, who you can
Yeah.
go to for cheap.
But it's like make it your own, make your own flavor of it, and it's like what would this genre be like through your particular lens?
Exactly.
And I think that's what makes indies great because for a while I was going through playing a ton of indie Souls-like games because I don't like Souls-likes that much. I
Yeah.
find them too dark, too gritty, and too frustrating. But if you give me the right flavor of a Souls-like, I am all over it, like butter on toast. It gets me together so quick.
Yeah. I just love I mean, like Vampire Survivor, for example, did this as well. I don't even know if there were like Survivor type games that were AAA even before. I don't
Mm-hmm.
even think there were.
No,
So
I'd never really
sometimes
seen anything like it before.
sometimes you get a breakout of a new completely new genre. So now we have the survivor genre, and a lot of game studios are doing this now. I haven't even seen like a AAA version, but like we've got different versions of that with Elemental Survivor. We've got this Spell Brigade coming out. We've got what, like
Oh,
so many survivor games. Death
oh,
Must
there's
Die.
yeah, Death Must Die. Be My Horde.
Yeah, they're really fun. They're very casual, very fun, very simple, easy to grasp, like games that are just a good time. And despite everything, I still think Vampire Survivors does it best. Um, Ponkel, I think, is the developer. They're solo as well, and I could be wrong on the name. I probably fudged it up, but they've been releasing like super cheap DLCs for like $1 and collabs and stuff like that. It's really cool.
I just really like when you have something that's it breaks through all of the stuff going on in gaming at a time, and it just becomes a takeoff rampant success,
Yeah,
and it goes on to basically cement the career of the people who made that game. Now everybody's trying to copy what they did, or emulate it at least. Usually the first one is the best one. Like, that's just how it is. You
yeah,
know, the person who gets there first makes it, puts it out, it's going to be the best received. Because there's no metric to compare it to, necessarily.
yeah,
Like, if you've created something that's totally different, even if it isn't, like, necessarily a fully original idea or whatever, like, if it's a gameplay style that we haven't seen for a long time, or we haven't seen in a modern context or whatever, then anything that comes after you that's trying to get a piece of your success is going to be compared to yours. And odds are it's not going to stack up.
yeah,
But it's just like, I think indies in general, just the fact they push so much for innovation. And I also love that I'm a sucker for games that will make me cry
yes,
and make me feel things. And I feel like indies do that better than AAA studios
yeah,
every single time. I have bawled my eyes out profusely over many an indie game, and I've never done that over a AAA. So just I think indies are just important for storytelling and the preservation of the storytelling as like a human experience. It's such a unique way to present something, and you can really say something impactful that has a very pointed tone, a very pointed message through an indie game without all of the overhead stuff from a AAA studio.
yeah. I think I've definitely cried more from indie games than I have from AAA. Like, of course, my favorite Final Fantasy IX makes me cry every time, but I'm not bawling, like
Yeah.
we'll talk about some of our favorites that I'm sure we'll talk about what made us cry or but like I've bawled at some of these other games.
Yeah, there's been indie games where I have like ugly cried for hours on end because it just hits so hard.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes I'll get teary eyed playing a AAA. Like, I cried when I finished Persona 3 Reload. I knew what the ending was going to be
Yeah.
because it's the same as the regular game.
Yeah.
It's the same as the original. But the presentation of it is done so well that I got choked up.
Yeah.
But did it have the same impact on me as when I played Spiritfarer? And I cried over that game 4 different times on camera? No. I'm just glad that I wasn't streaming Endling Extinction is Forever.
That game's coming
But
up for me.
have your tissues ready,
Yeah.
Neva.
Did you play Venba yet?
No, I need
Oh,
to.
well, get ready to cry.
Same with the Space for the Unbound.
Yeah, we both need to play that one.
And we were told to have our tissues ready for that one.
Yeah, it's coming up. I promise.
Hmm.
But Venba is pretty quick, and it's such a good story.
And I mean, it. I think it just won a BAFTA,
It did, I
which is
think.
like pretty fierce. BAFTA games make me cry typically. Um,
They
the art,
BAFTA.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. But the Artful Escape, I cried on stream playing that just because of the way the presentation came together. Because I am that person who, if the visuals and the music hit just the right way, it just makes me go. And it did for me. And it was just like seeing the scale of everything like pan out as these like creatures are flying in the background and the music shifts, and it's so good. So if you haven't played that game, highly recommend that. And for our listeners out there who like to partake of substances, I will say, I mean, we're both sober, but this is a game that I would say would probably hit pretty hard if you're just a little bit high. So if you're looking for a game to play after you've like had an edible, like, this would be a good one.
Good to know.
On the topic of like other favorite indies of ours, what are some of yours?
I have a list. We're only gonna expand on maybe two or three each, but some of the games that I'm either really excited for that are my favorites or that I've already played are Meg's Monster, which you already knew was coming, I'm sure.
Yes.
That hit me. That game hit me so hard, Kara.
Yeah, I watched you
Uh,
play it and I was like, oh.
yeah, I'll be editing it eventually, and I'm sure I'll cry again. Spirit Swap, which we've already talked about. Journey, which is kind of like a double A, triple I title,
Yeah.
I feel like, but it's still an indie game, I think. And Terraria, because I've played that forever. Webbed,
Because
Melatonin.
you love your little spider games.
I do love a spider game. They're coming out with another one that's like you're like an isopod and you like run around.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Melatonin, In Stars in Time, Jack Move, Chalk, which is Tsioque, and Vampire
Oh,
Survivor. I also put.
slay. Yeah, what makes those your favorites?
Oh, I was like, "What's your list?" But I'll start with Meg's Monster. Um, it's not even just because it hit me so hard. It was just the characters are so well developed with each other. It's so well written, and just like the gameplay has really good pacing. It's just genuinely just like a good game. Not too long, not too short. You could play it in two sittings or one. Like it's really up to like your preference. And the music is amazing. There's like some not too many optional things, which I think is good for someone like me because I'll stick to an optional thing like it's nobody's business.
Yeah.
Playing every game that has optionals, I have such a hard time streaming them because I'll stick to the optionals because I want all the extra stuff. But
Yeah.
um, but it doesn't have too many. But the optionals that they do have are excellent, super well done. Um, I'm just kind of I was blown away by the entire thing. I think soon I'll need to replay it because it's always on the back of my mind, and I think that's
Yeah.
really how this game has stuck to me. And in saying like how good it is, like, and for those who don't know me, I play probably 5 indie games a week. Like last year, I think I did an indie-thon because I had too many indie games in my pocket to like that I hadn't played.
Yeah.
Um, so I did an indie-thon where what I played 22,
Yeah, it was like every half hour you switched.
yeah, 22 games in 24 hours. So like I usually have an abundance of indie games and I play a ridiculous amount of them, and Meg's Monster is one of them that truly stuck with me. Um, so I'd recommend it for people who like RPGs, who love a good story, and it's not too hard, but it's also not baby mode.
Well, that's always nice too.
Yeah. I just don't want to like share. I don't want to like hog the floor with my 3 games.
Oh
So,
no, you're fine.
what are your favorite games,
Um,
Kara?
So for me, indie gaming is something I came to because of streaming. It wasn't anything I particularly paid too much attention to outside of it. If I thought a game looked cool or funny or whatever, I'd check it out. But I have maybe like on one hand the number of indies I can remember playing before streaming. And since streaming, I played games like Hades, and that made me fall in love with Supergiant as a developer, and I'm obsessed with them. I've bought Hades 3 separate times on 3 different platforms, and I've put at least 100 hours into it on each one of them because I play it constantly, and it's just great. And the sequel is even better, and I can't wait for the full release. So if you haven't played Hades 2, get it on early access on Steam. You will not regret it.
Or Hades 1.
Hades 1 2. The 1-2 combo.
The 1-2 combo.
The 1-2 punch. But they're, oh my gosh, they're so good. They're so good. I would say my other ones would be games. I love things from Finji. I love Chicory: A Colorful Tale, especially as an artist. That game hits so hard on the storyline of the juxtaposition of a character who is a career artist and is horribly burnt out, because I have been there so many times, compared to the character you play as. They have such a high ideal of what it is to be an artist, and they dream about achieving the heights that this burnt out character achieves. And when they get to that same position that artist they idolize has held for however long, they quickly realize it's a lot harder than what they thought it was. And there's a lot more work you're doing, because your job as an artist is to solve other people's problems all the time. And your job is to do things that they cannot do for themselves. It's hard. You get micromanaged all the time. And a game that tackled that idea of the back and forth of the mental struggles of somebody who is just over it and done versus somebody who wants to be that so badly, but also sees how much like different outside factors will really change the way an artist works. I loved it so much, and it really gave me a lot of things to think about.
It was so cute.
And it's cute. It's fun. The entire game is a giant coloring book, for God's sake. And you can just go to town. And as somebody who loves top-down Zelda, it's very that. It's very that energy.
You get to paint
with the puzzle
every
solving.
single
Yeah.
frame of the game.
Yes, it's so good. The story hits so hard. The music is incredible. Letta Rain will hit every single time. She's wonderful and amazing, and I love her. And I love Wishes as a studio because of games like Chicory and Wandersong, which is also really cute. And then their upcoming game, Beastie Ball, which I'm a Pokemon girly. Chelora's a Pokemon girly. This one I was like, I don't really care for sports games, but I will play a sports game if you have a monster catching mechanic in it. I will be very down for that. So I'm ready to go with this game whenever it releases. And I've played the demo. It's really fun. It's really cute. Highly recommend that as well. The other one was picked up by Finji and published by them as well. But for a long time was a solo dev project, and then he kind of slowly added people to the team. But that game would be Tunic, which I know you also really love.
Yeah, it's cute.
And I think I love that game so much because it is sort of like a top-down Zelda take on a Souls-like formula with puzzle solving and all of that. But I also hold that game very near and dear because of my experience playing it with the two of us in a Discord call.
Yeah.
While I played it. And solving the puzzles together and taking physical notes to write down every little thing that we could, because that's a big part of the game. And as somebody who grew up and is an only child, that's an experience I didn't have growing up playing games with siblings. And I felt like I got a little piece of that a little bit.
Yeah.
Where it was we're playing the game together. One of us maybe not actually physically playing the game, but we're working together to solve these puzzles, to find these secrets, to progress, to do whatever. It was just cool. And that game, to this day, in my opinion, has the coolest puzzle and the best puzzle I've ever experienced in a game with like the golden path. So if you haven't played Tunic, that's another one. You got to do it, and it's difficult, but it's not unforgiving.
Yeah.
So it's a good challenge.
Yeah, I found it challenging, but like rewarding.
Yes, and that's another one that like I didn't cry when I finished building the instruction manual, but I got very close to it when I got that last page.
You were like, ah.
I was like, oh, it's so sweet. But yeah, I love indie games that introduce me to genres I wouldn't normally play.
Yes.
I don't normally play roguelites. I don't normally play Souls-likes.
And here you are.
Playing both of them. And now I love them.
Yeah.
Like, I went and played, after playing Tunic, I went and played Death's Door. And that game is also very fun
Yeah.
and very cute.
Hollow Knight next, I'm sure.
Yep, I started it and I didn't play it for more than like an hour and a half, but I started it at least.
It's hard. It's long.
And then, oh yeah, and then for roguelites, Have a Nice Death is another indie roguelite that I absolutely adore. It's really funny, it's really charming, and the combat is really fun, and it feels very much Hollow Knight with the Hades roguelite formula. So if that's your vibe, that's there too.
Throw in my second favorite that I wanted to talk about anyway.
Yes.
Which was Webbed. And I just think it's like such a cute game. Like, not just aesthetically, but like, I don't know, they added like accessibility features in case you're arachnophobic. But it's about a little spider who loses her boyfriend to a big crow. And he's not dead, he got captured by the crow. And so you're on this mission to like save your little spider boyfriend. In the spider world, the males are more colorful.
Like, so it's the peacock thing. The males are more colorful.
Yeah.
The males are more colorful to attract a mate, and the females are more natural colors to hide.
Yeah, and so your boyfriend's webs are like all rainbow colored, and yours are just like regular webs, and which I think is just like an aesthetic choice. I think it's just really pretty. But you go on this adorable little adventure in these kind of 3 or 4-ish areas of just like nature or whatever. Like there's a giant tree in the middle, and you talk to like your little wasp friend or moth friend, I should say. And there's like mini games and collectibles, and there's this whole like physics area, because there's like physics around your webs and how you interact with the world. So they created this whole like skater rink where you get to be
that's fun.
a skateboard spider, and it's really interesting. I was never good at the mechanics, but it is still like very fun. And there's like a ton of like physics stuff to play with that work really well. And the arachnophobia mode is nice because everything is just like a blob. So it could just be you're a slime blob doing your slime blob things. But you also get skins for different kinds of spiders, which I think is, as a spider nerd, is really, really nice. And I just thoroughly enjoyed this like little adventure you go on. And I mean, it's not a huge spoiler, at least it's not. I don't even know if it's intentional. So that's why I'm like, I don't think it matters. But at the end of the game, you save your spider boyfriend, and you get a skin where you can be the same like color as your spider boyfriend, which to me was very trans.
Oh yeah.
So like I streamed it like start to finish in one sitting, and I'm like playing this thing, and you know, technically you're a female spider the whole time, so you're just like brown, and you save your boyfriend, and you're in this web together, and he gives you the skin, and then I'm like, oh, we're gay, we're trans boys together, like.
Which is cute.
I claimed it like that because that's
how you read it, you know.
That's how I read it. And I just really thoroughly felt so much joy throughout the game as a bug nerd,
Mm-hmm.
getting to live in this little world. You know, you would think that I would probably choose games more like what's that game where you like it's like like a farming adventure sim, but you're like tiny people and like Honey Who Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, Grounded.
Grounded. You would think I would love Grounded, but I don't. Uh,
Yeah.
because you're people. You're not.
Yeah. Well, you're fighting the bugs.
Yeah, you're, and
You're
it's not
not.
even that accurate. Like it's a little
Yeah.
accurate, but not that much. So there's just little things that bother me, and like wolf spiders are actually kind of friendly, but I guess if you're a tiny human, you might look like a meal, so I guess that's fair. Anyway, that's one of my favorites. The last being a game I played recently this at the beginning of the year called In Stars and Time.
Which
Uh,
I still need to play.
loop games are in right now. I
Oh,
keep
absolutely.
It's just
They
something I
really
keep
are.
saying over and
But they,
over.
but they are
But
like a
they
loop.
are.
That's your loop that you're stuck in. You just say in perpetuity
Yes.
that loop games are in.
Yes.
But
That's my
but
perpetual loop. This game was incredible. It's so cute and like adorable and so honest and like real, I guess. It doesn't it doesn't take itself too seriously, which I appreciate, especially for like a loop game. Because like you could think like roguelites are kind of like looping games, right?
yeah,
But instead of looping, you're kind of more progressing in roguelites. Whereas like looping, the only progress you make is the information that you learn along the way.
yeah,
Because you have to relive the same experience every time. It's just what you do differently that changes the loop. I'm pretty sure I cried several times playing this game. There's so much um, depth to each character that you can take away from each loop, and your character goes through this huge development over the course of the game that is really reminiscent of like I think what a lot of us go through, where we feel a lot of insecurity about our friends and how we see maybe our friends as chosen family and how we wish we could be closer, but if we do something about it, we could lose it. All of the anxieties around the people that we're close to are
yeah,
addressed in this game. And as someone who has a lot of like chosen family experiences, it was really hard hitting and like to like kind of and to feel validated in my anxieties, I guess,
yeah. Oh, definitely.
of those things. And um, I guess that might sound like it might deter people from playing the game, but it's good. It's validation in that sense, and like the ending is pretty good, I think. And there's a lot of information to take away. There's queer characters, trans like descriptions in the story, like the god that they kind of worship is all about change.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't change, you're you kind of become stagnant, and so like your life is changing, your gender could change. All of these changes are good things, and they're kind of seen um, as holy. So like there is a character who you're close to who changed their gender, um, and it's a very good, healthy conversation, and it's always like seen as like, doesn't everybody do that? Like
Yeah.
it's so heartwarming when I
Oh,
see
definitely.
transness in like a very casual
Oh,
conversation way.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Where it's like it's not their entire personality.
yeah,
It's not the entire crux of their character that they're
yeah,
trans. It's just that they happen to be trans. Let's talk about it a little
yeah.
bit.
And
And
there's
then
conversations about it too, where they're
yeah.
just kind of like, oh, I guess like if you want to know more about it, sure, let's talk about it. And there's just I don't know. I it's You're gonna need a notebook. I don't know how many times I gotta iterate it for
Yes.
people on my stream and in my community, but you're gonna need a notebook. Uh, I am a huge advocate for notebooks with video games because I don't like forgetting codes to safes. I like remembering my details, and with looping games, sometimes you need to remember things. If you step away from the computer or you're in a voice call or you listen to music or whatever it is that you're doing, you're watching a speed run, you're going to forget things, so write it down. Make your life a little easier.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it's just so cool to me that we are living in a time where gaming development is so accessible to people in general.
Yeah.
Like, any Joe Schmo who wants to make a game could go out and learn how to do it and make one.
Yeah.
It's just, and there's so many really cool games these days that are made by people who just had an idea and just figured out how to make it work. I mean, I can't tell you how many articles I've read about indies where the development team is like, we learned how to code to make this game. We learned how to draw to make this game, how to make music. Like, we didn't know how to do any of this. We just learned how to do it because we wanted to make it. And we did. And here's how it turned out. Like, I love stuff like that so much. When you look at, like, the history of gaming as a whole, so much of early gaming, it was sometimes smaller studios working for a larger company or working for a larger publisher or whatever. But it was all about the AAA stuff for a long time, especially after the market crash in the 80s. It's just really cool now that there's so much out there. That, like, there's really a game for every type of person, every type of player, every type of consumer. There's games out there that I would say are more like interactive movies than they are games.
Yeah.
But they could still be indie.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's the vehicle they're using to tell their story.
Yep.
Is through that interactive platform. And I think that's what is so cool about it. And it's why I love indie games so much. There's just so much. Yes, exactly. Like, there's so much you can do. And really the possibilities are endless. To me, the most exciting games to play are the ones where the people making the game are so gung-ho about everything that they did for it. And you can feel all of the energy and the time that was invested creating that product.
Yeah.
And that experience.
What are we experiencing right now, Kara? What's going on in your current field of vision?
Well, right now, obviously, it's a lot of Hades 2. Especially with, I know, big surprise. But, like, with all these patches, it's good. It's so good. It's so good. And the patches get better. The weapons are all really fun. I love how different it is from the first game.
Yeah.
Because the first game I am quite good at because I've invested so much time in it, but also because it's a faster, more frenetic play style, and that's how I like to play games. This game, you can't be like that all the time. You have to usually go pretty slow. You have to be more methodical.
Yeah.
You have to line up your shots. You've got all these AoE things that you can do. There's a whole other like meter that you have to manage on top of your health.
I love the theme.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
Like,
what's your favorite weapon?
I love the sister blades because they're fast. Because they're like the fists.
Yeah.
And also they have like the arrow range because you can throw them. I also really like the axe.
Okay.
The axe is fun, especially if you get like Apollo's boons on it. They increase the range that you hit.
Oh.
Because Devo with the axe, the base attack, you can clear a room in like 2 shots.
Okay.
It's great.
I'm a staff and umbral girl.
The staff is fun.
Yeah. I
like
the
flames, the torches.
The torches. And
yeah.
I also like the skull. So it's funny that we both like completely different weapons.
Oh, yeah. See, because I don't like the skull at all.
I love the skull. It's cool.
I think it's a cool idea, but I don't care for it mechanically.
That's fair.
But, I mean, that's how I am with the first game. Like,
yeah.
I like, there's certain weapons, I love some of the aspects of them, but I don't like the base one. Like, I don't like the base railgun at all.
Yeah.
but I love the hidden aspect of it, where the gun becomes a laser, and then the damage just stacks continuously for the longer you hold it on an enemy.
Oh, work.
That's fun.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what this new weapon is going to be. I'm excited to see, because there's one more that they haven't put out yet.
Oh.
And
well,
then I'm excited.
Now I have to know.
I'm excited for when they add the new section that hasn't been in the game yet.
Yeah.
That will continue the story. I'm excited to continue the story and see where it goes. I hope we get to see our brother.
And I love the bathhouse.
Yes, the bathhouse is so
the little
fun.
hot spring.
Mm-hmm. And
it's
then
so flirty.
Yeah, and the familiars.
Yeah.
And you can go fishing.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much in that game. Like I would say there is way more in what they released in the base game of that at launch for early access than what there is in the full release of the first game.
Absolutely.
By far. And it's not done. So like this game is, I feel like it's gonna win Game of the Year when the full release happens. Like it's gonna sweep.
Yeah.
And people are gonna be mad about it, but I don't care.
Neither do I.
Because it's deserved. Supergiant is it's a really small team. I think they're less than 50 people that work on that game.
And it's better than a lot of AAAs, if I'm honest.
Yeah, like it's
the quality,
so
the art is so good.
Yeah, the art is fantastic.
The music, the gameplay, it's so good, so smooth. I don't even think I experienced a bug.
Yeah, I didn't either.
The early access, I don't even think I did.
No, it's great. But coming down the pipeline, I know a game that we're both really excited about is Demon School from Necrosoft Games.
Yes.
Because you are a tactical girly.
Yes.
And I'm not, but I am a big Persona Shin Megami Tensei fan, and this game feels very much like a tactical take on early Persona, like 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But it's also blended with like this idea of Italian horror, which I think is so cool. And it's so trippy. It's so weird visually. The boss designs are really freaking creepy.
I love the characters.
Oh, and the party is huge. There's like 15, I think.
I like the guy that drinks sour milk. He's cute. Oh,
yeah. Mm-hmm. But like there's such a fun range of characters in that game, and I can't wait to unlock them and find out what their stories are and get into that and all the tactics of that game, and have to think, of what I'm doing when I play games, because that's what I like about SMT is I like the strategy of it.
Yes.
I just don't like the grid management of a tactics game.
Oh.
Which that when you add that layer in where it's like I now have to think about what I'm doing for my
position
and where I'm moving everyone to. That's one too many steps for me. But I love games like SMT where it's turn-based, but the boss fights are a puzzle.
Yes.
Like there is a looping strategy that you have to figure out. This is when I need to guard. This is when I need to hit hard. This is when I need to do my stat buffs. This is when I need to debuff them. All of that. The routine of that. I love figuring it out. It's one of my favorite parts of those games. By a long shot. So I'm excited to get into that one. And that comes out in September.
Yeah, it's soon. Well, when this comes out, it'll be recent.
Yeah. It'll be like...
It'll be topical.
Yeah, it'll be coming out in like a couple weeks from by the time this comes out. So I'm sure we will both be playing it. And there's so many good RPGs coming out this fall. And my wallet is already crying.
I'm so excited.
I am
so
too.
Excited to be poor.
Yes. Because like we've got that. These are not indie games, but we've got Dragon Age. For me at least. I know you haven't played them yet, but I'm a Dragon Age girl, so I can't wait for Veilguard. And then we've got Metaphor Refantasio from Atlas coming out this fall too.
Okay.
And I'm very excited for that game.
I have been playing... Well, I guess I'm going to say what I'm excited for first, because that's where we are. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited for Rift of the Necrodancer.
Yes.
It's one I just remembered by Brace Yourself Games. They made Crypt of the Necrodancer, and Rift is more based on rhythm as opposed to like dungeon crawler, um, or like that kind of vibe. And I'm just so excited. It looks so good. I've played it, probably demoed it 2 or 3 times, and I loved it every time. And I eat it up because they give you these different rhythm game styles, and I'm just a sucker for a good rhythm game.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
so I'm really excited for that. I am also excited for Sorry We're Closed. I
Yes.
played the demo for it on stream maybe like a week or so ago, back in July. I throw in the back in July, even though we're recording in July, uh, because it comes out later. You know how it is, and I'm just so excited for it. It looks kind of like Resident Evil, but like it gives like kind of a queer, demonic, like uh, mystical vibe. I don't know. It has like this
Yes.
like distinctive like fashion queer fashion diva vibe.
Yes. I was like, I
Um,
don't like horror games, and when I saw that, I was like, oh,
yeah,
I would play this.
yeah. This like I don't know the quote unquote antagonist looking character is really exciting. She's platinum blonde with a platinum blonde unibrow.
Yes.
And it's stunning. I live for it, and kind of has like a Guillermo del Toro like demonic like
Yeah, exactly that. Like,
vibe, like pixel vibe to it. Kind of
mm-hmm.
like the Mouth of Sauron kind of looking,
Yes.
like because there's this mix of like demon world versus real world, and our character has some like sapphic. Maybe she's a lesbian. I don't know. I don't want to assume if she's just a lesbian or what her orientation is or even what her identity is. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some sapphic energy going on that I love, and it's very natural and just like they don't even talk about it. They're just like it's here. The sapphic energy is here. She's got a Playboy, I think, on her bedside table or something, and the fashion is all there. Like the design is incredible,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
the gameplay is a lot of fun, uh, especially if you like Resident Evil.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Alone in the Dark, the early Alone in the Dark stuff.
Oh, I don't know that
That
one.
came, but it's what Resident Evil was inspired by.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Like so, like the first survival horror stuff,
Yeah,
where it's kind of colorful, it's really blocky, really like rudimentary visually,
yeah.
but it's got like a really particular vibe.
I just finished Unicorn Overlord, which we kind of debated whether or not that is an indie or if it's a triple I or a double A or whatever you want to call it. I just
Yeah.
finished it. It was very good. Like I said, I was expecting some queer vibes, and it reached its peak with Amalia in that one cutscene, and then completely disappeared.
Yeah, but that's Atlas for you.
Yeah,
Like it's an Atlas published game. Like
well,
it's gonna be like that.
it's weird because they give you this like scenario where you kind of get to like marry someone,
Mm-hmm.
but when you choose, at least the guys that I chose, they're like, we're besties, or like, it's just like this like very platonic energy, and I was like, what was the point? And like, I looked online, and everybody was just like, oh, just marry Rosalind, it's fine. And I was like, I love Rosalind, she's a fierce lady diva, but I want to be gay. I want my man to
Yeah.
be a homosexual. Like, can I marry the elf with his thick thighs out? Like, why this hot elf man who's wearing this tight ass outfit with his muscles coming out of the shirt got his thighs fucking out if I can't marry him?
Yeah. I think that's
Um,
one thing that historically, as a fan of Atlas games, and someone who gives Atlas a lot of my money, I really hate that they do so often set up queer storylines
queer
and queer
baiting.
characters, and that yeah, it's queer baiting. It's like it's all there. They had the makings of something that could be fantastic, and then they're like, nope, we're gonna take it away from you at the last second. You know, there's all these other games that they've been doing recently where it's like the subtext is there, the storyline is there. You've written it. You just won't you won't bite the bullet and make them gay or
Yeah,
make it
or
an
give us the
option.
option.
Yeah, and it's like, but the thing is that like they have games in their past catalog that do have a gay romance option. Persona 2 has a gay romance option. Sure, the game also has Hitler in it, but like
In a good
that.
light?
No, he's a
Well,
bad
there
guy.
you go.
But he's straight up Hitler, which is why the game didn't come to the West for a really long time.
Right.
But one of the characters in the game is, he's, kind of this flowery guy, so it kind of makes sense that he's the gay one. But you can romance him in the first Persona 2 game in the duology. And it's a really well written, like, romance that's handled with a lot of tact for the early 2000s. And then you've got games like Digital Devil Saga,
Yeah.
where the whole thing of the game is that like you're ascending beyond gender into godhood. And like it has really progressive views on gender for that as well. But I don't know. It's frustrating. It's just frustrating when it's when it's there.
I appreciated the character design that they kind of objectify the men too. Like the women got big titties and they shake them around and stuff,
Yeah.
But it was kind of camp for me, so I was like, I think this is like I enjoyed it, Like,
Yeah.
it was like work, bitch, shake them bazookas.
Yes.
And then we've got like Bara Titty Lion Man who's just out here with his like big ass chest, and it's like extreme, and I was just like, oh wow, okay, we're really going here with everybody.
Yeah.
And, like Elf Boy with his fucking thighs out. I was like, okay, I will take this. I'll
Yes.
take all my little sexy looking menses, and I'm happy. I'm pleased with this. So I'll take it with the sexy girls who are badass and they know it. Because they got their coochies out and their titties out, and if everybody has their titties and their coochies out, then we're fine. It's just fun. It's just fun.
Yeah, it's more fun.
Unicorn Overlord overall, I would say that it was fun. It just, I don't know, it has a very fast pacing but very slow gameplay, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
like
it's
the
just-
story moves quick, but to get through the story, it takes a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of little battles, and you can speed through so many things, but it's just long.
Yeah.
So it's slow progress. But I didn't mind it. I thought that a lot of those things were good. I thought the ending was kind of crap just because they did this thing that like Fire Emblem does where they like, oh, this person went on to do this, blah, 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 but none of it mattered.
Yeah.
I hate that because it's like 30 minutes of something you can't really necessarily skip. And you're reading, hoping for like good dialogue, and then none of it's written well.
Yeah.
It was just a little lackluster for me. Like everybody went on to live their semi-heroic life, and nothing particularly interesting happened.
Yeah.
Like, okay, great. You're just gonna give me the same garbage for everyone. Wonderful. Lastly, I finished playing Venture to the Vile, which was kind of like a Hollow Knight game where you're kind of in like it kind of feels pop-up book.
Oh, cute.
Like the dimensions, so like you move forward and backward through the perspectives, if that makes sense. What do you call that? Like the layers?
Like the foreground, middle ground, background.
Yeah. The foreground and background. And you have that like Hollow Knight, like Metroidvania aspect. And it was good despite a few bugs, some of which were game breaking in terms of like side quests I wanted to finish. But it's fine. That's indie games for you. Sometimes you get bugs, and they'll patch them out, or sometimes
Hopefully.
they won't, depending on the indie game you play. But it was good. I liked it. I thought it was fun.
Cute. Yeah, I do like there's a lot of games these days that are doing that game or that thing where you're going back and forth through perspective.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun mechanic.
I think so too. I was gonna talk about Little Nightmares as like an example of games that changed the genre, and then I was like, no, I can't say that now. But I'm doing it right now, I guess. Because then we ended up with games like Bramble,
Yeah.
um, which, you know, a lot of these games might be completely unique to like the people who are making them. It's just you're always going to reference the first one that was a success.
Yes. Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
Kara,
Yes. Chelora.
at the end of the day, I guess we love indie games.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's safe to say that we are just wigging.
We're wigging. It's the end of the episode, and we got to wig off.
Yep. Yeah, we have to reveal that our human units are actually human units, and we have actual hair underneath all of these.
Yeah, I scalped myself and then put it into a wig and then put it back on my head. And to everyone's surprise, I have legs.
Oh! I don't. So, at least that you won't see for now. But maybe one day when I move in with my boyfriend, maybe I'll have a little setup, a little
Or
couch.
when you visit.
Yeah. Whenever that may be.
Who knows? I know, but
Yes.
do they know?
This has been fun. I think this was a very productive conversation, very interesting conversation, and an insight into our late night Discord calls, because it is very much, it's this all the time. So, so
it's
I
blah,
think,
blah, blah.
Yep, for 8 hours. So, be glad we didn't make you sit through that much. Yet. Yeah. Until next time, we will see you all whenever we see you. And
Toodles, babe.
yes. Bye.
Bum, bum, ba-da-ba-da.